welcome to the August 9th meeting of the Riverlands Authority. I call the meeting to order. It is 5:32 p.m. If everybody will please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming tonight. Everyone should have received an agenda for this evening's meeting. Can I please get a motion to adopt the agenda? A motion to adopt. And can I get a second?
A second.
Okay, thank you. I received a motion from Sherry and a second from Mark. All in favor? And then for last month's minutes, everyone also should have received a copy of last month's minutes from the July 12th meeting. Are there any corrections or comments needed? That's good. Okay. If there are no corrections, can I please get a motion to adopt the minutes for the July 12th meeting?
I motion to adopt last month's meeting minutes.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion from Steve and a second from Taylor. All in favor? Great. Okay. If there's any public comment this evening regarding the Riverlands Authority, community members will have 3 minutes to speak. Would anyone like to speak?
Oh, yes, I would.
No, you get to speak with the director's comments. Oh, do you want to speak as well?
No, go ahead.
Okay. If there's no public comment, then we'll consider public comment closed. Okay. Our next agenda item will be a proposal from Joel Bowman, and with B&C Studios, we want to welcome you, Joel.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll just tell you when to flip. So, anyway, Joel Bowman, B&C Studios, so land planner, landscape architect, been in Atlanta since 1996. Our practice has been around 20 years. So doing lots of projects, do a lot of commercial work, a lot of planning work. But this one's really exciting. This is, I love to be this early in projects because we can help define the project with scope and programming and pictures. So that's what this is about, just a lot of great ideas and thoughts and pictures to help set the tone and get some ideas. Go ahead, next one. Quick vicinity map, just to kind of get everybody on the same page, but the golf course to the upper right, the northern property is about 85 acres, Chattahoochee's all the way on the left side, Cumming Highway in the middle. The south side is 70 acres of property, so it's split between Cumming Highway, and then Twin Creeks and Wild Timber is to the bordering neighborhoods. So a little bit as we start, we're going to see a little bit thematically how we look at different visions and pictures and options, but obviously with Cumming Highway running right in between, we want to look at opportunities for shopping, retail, experiences. So this is something that we're looking on the north side. This is a little bit more experiential retail than your typical retail, but again, this is with an outdoor flavor of things that we're looking at. Next one. On the south side, on this opportunity is a little bit limited. We have some frontage on the highway, but there's a stream and it's a little bit, you can see a little bit narrow there. So this one is a little bit more people oriented, more shops oriented, more activation oriented. So this could be your bicycle shops, your kayak shops, your different bait shops, things like that. So as we get further into the site, so we're going to stay a little bit on the north side on the first couple ones, but events and food and different ways that we can do this. This is thematic in nature. This is immersing retail, they call it. So this is a little bit more than your typical retail. This is actually experiential retail, so it's more about the senses and getting people to sit with each other, next to each other, and it's a little bit less about the retail sales and a little bit more about experiences. Again, same kind of flavor, brewery, outdoor spaces, fire pits, places where congregating of people is a lot more important. Accommodation, so different ways in which we can look at this property in terms of housing or just stay. Next one. So this one is more about a hotel, what a hotel can look like, a boutique hotel, maybe something 60, 90 rooms, just something that would get exposure but keep the natural environment, focal in mind. Same thing, maybe there's yoga classes on the north side, and there's different ways that we can kind of add into the area as well. So different experiences, rooftop, different bars and experiences. So on the south side, we have the old house that's there. We looked at, this is from an architectural plan that was done that we incorporated in the package that just shows how we could renovate that old building, that old house up there, into something that would be more like an event center or a gathering place. Next slide. And again, just different angles of how we could use that sitting in the woods on top of the hill, which is pretty dramatic if you have not been there. Next one. Also looking at small cottages on this side, different ways that we could have housing opportunities, overnight stays, weekend getaways, things like that that could bring in the experience. Next one. Now we get more into the activities. So we centered a little bit more of the activities on the north side on this one. So this is where we're getting pretty active. Again, we've got the Chattahoochee right next to us, so ways we could interact with the Chattahoochee River. Ways that we could do passive, that it could be kind of Boy Scout-ish, I would say, an outside environment and trails, all working with the trees. Different ways we could do exercise, exercise courses, and different ways we could use, multi-generational from probably kids all the way up. Playground activities for the kids, different age groups. Frisbee golf, different way that we can activate the spaces and inside the woods. Then we get into biking, so it can be all the way to the more experienced BMX stuff and track stuff that's a little bit more programmed. Skateboarding. Then we get more into the woods, so it can be something to be more mountain bike, REI kind of experience. Zip line, if we're going too fast, there's a lot here, so I'm sorry about that. But zip line courses, different ways again we can interact within the woods. Climbing walls, and we've done a couple of these, which are pretty cool. These got pretty popular in different student campuses and things that we do in some of the campuses, universities, but it's kind of cool activities. But again, outdoor environments, all ages. Again, back to biking, which is so popular, and part of this trail would be huge for biking. And then ways we could do a little bit more, if you never heard of glamping, it's like glamour and camping combined now. So it's a boutique thing it's catching fire. So it's a unique experience again that we could do for overnight things. Gardens on the south side, we wanted to look a little bit more on the garden side, around the event space. So go ahead. So we're talking, could have a chapel, could be passive, could be flowers, could be relaxing, butterfly, gardens, pollinators. Looking ways to use water, trails, a lot more passive. If there's farming or some kind of community gathering here, gardens, something that we could have for festivals and things that we could then have events. And then we look at signage and entrance. We loosely put together a couple thoughts. Maybe we do a cover bridge on the south side where we have kind of a stream crossing, but ways that we can make it look, identify the area with understated things. Next one. So getting to the master plan, looking at both sides, what's interesting about Cumming Highway, it does offer us an opportunity to we have the really active side on the north and maybe a little bit more passive on the south. So the north is where you would see a lot more of the retail and then maybe the boutique hotel in different ways that side is very, very active, very activated with different elements and things to do. Hopefully you can work with the National Park System and build trails to get to the Chattahoochee, because that segment of the Chattahoochee is really amazing, good for fishing and rocks. And then on the south side, we looked at how we can make a passive environment on the south side. Next one. So just blowing this up, we have some opportunities here on Cumming Highway where the markets would be a little bit bigger of an area, and then we could step into the development as we go with restaurants and hotel and wellness centers or spas. On the south side, you can see we're a little bit, south side, a little bit constrained here by a stream, but taking that on both sides of the highway as identification would be really, really well. Again, looking at the north side, just kind of looking at different areas. And we've talked, maybe there's ways we could bring in the golf course into this a little bit, so it's, becomes a bigger piece. But again, this is 85 acres, so a lot of opportunities. On the south side, again, right in the middle is the old house, so that would be the kind of the nucleus of it. And you could do chapel and amphitheater and event lawn and cottages, maybe could tuck down into the woods on one side. And against the neighborhoods, maybe it's just preserved woods as much as we possibly can, and just some simple trails. There's a gas easement, there's opportunities there, and there's a sewer line. Just ways that we can put trails on these kind of areas that have already been, I would say, treeless, so that we don't have to take down more trees. But just a way to create on this side a more passive environment that's probably more relaxing. That's it. So, I don't know if I went through it too fast or not. Questions and comments?
Can you pull back, the one before?
Yeah.
All right, can you point out each of the elements of the recreation components and then describe what that corresponds to in some of the imagery? So the one I'm looking at is pump track, so tell me what that means.
Pump tracks here, that's probably more your BMX stuff that's right in here. So just different elements that we found around BMX stuff. So courses, and you know, I'm not the big biker, but this is more, I would say, areas. We also looked at the topography in this area. So we looked at the topography and said, okay, where can we put some things that need a little bit more disturbance? If it's flatter, if it's got a little less trees. As you can see on this side where the woods are, you know, it'd be a little bit harder to probably get in there, and that would be the places that we put the trails and the stuff that could go in between the trees. But as this area through here, we had, you know, and that's how we also look at parking lots. I mean, we do need to have some parking lots, but this is a relatively flat area up here. So could we use this as our skateboard park or our parking for bikes and things that people would drive in? And then maybe that's close to where a playground is. So you look at how they start to work together. Trailhead facility to just kind of say, hey, this is our opening to this more like bike park and skate park. And then as we're getting down in through the woods and different things, we would meander down through with different trails and loops.
And then describe the dash line through the middle for them. I think they know what that is, but and
Yeah.
then bouldering, you
Yep.
mentioned that.
So this is the ARC line that goes with Chattahoochee. So this runs up and down the Chattahoochee. So there's different permitting and different things that you have to do with them, that you have to talk about impervious surface and how all that goes together. So we have had a lot of experience with this, whether it's a retail development, a single family neighborhood, or whatever it is. Everybody's got to go through this Chattahoochee ARC category that they have to do. So that would be something where we're keeping more of the heavy uses up here outside of that, which would help us. But the bouldering, again, that's when those climbing walls and boulders, and we just put one into a community in Kennesaw that's probably as high as this, and the students, it's got these pads around it that you can land on, but it's really heavily used, more than I thought it would be. So I was a little nervous when I saw that many kids on it. So, but it's a pretty cool thing. But you can get some things like that, and that, you know, next to the playground, again, it gives you options for different age levels to do different things. So.
Can you show us the south side?
Yeah.
Can you enlarge it?
Yeah, keep going. So the south side, the outfitters and things would be here as more like a gateway, I would say, to what we're trying to create. It's really flat up here if you've ever been to the site, but then we have this creek that kind of runs all the way through. So we'll have a stream buffer, and we'll have an area of preserved trees. So if we can manage to figure out how to do a little bit of retail experience here with some parking, and then as we cross that stream, we had the thought of doing some kind of covered bridge. So it's like a gateway into something that would be a little bit more passive. Maybe we could do a trailhead parking here that could lead to trails that would interact. But as you come up, we would build the road that is kind of there today. We'd have to look at topography, but build the road as well as we can to the top of the retreat. And maybe this can be the headquarters for not only wedding events and different things like that, but it could be, you know, how we get into the cottages. You know, we have like a hammock grove, so we thought this is an area just to walk around. It could be azaleas, and it could be hammocks, it could be tree houses, it could be whatever we thought would be great to have in this area. So And then as we get to the retreat, it would maybe go out into an event lawn, if it was a wedding or an event or something like that. And then just maybe somehow we would put a chapel in there and just ideas. Amphitheater would be cool. Maybe it's a somewhat covered amphitheater, so you could have concert, plays, theater, something like that could be there. But then it's a totally different feel than it is on the north side. This could be lunch, it could be whatever you would want it to be. And then we would keep a lot of this intact, it would just be simple trails and things to meander through. I mean, hopefully we can work with the National Park Service. We have done a couple projects where we've worked with them, and incorporate more trails and more activities, because I think they're trying to, at the same time, get people to experience in Chattahoochee. So there is kind of a pathway that's proposed. I don't know what the status of that and what's going on, but I think, the thought that they already have this in mind is something that would add to whatever we wanted to do. And maybe down here we could do something fishing related. So maybe there's a bait or an outfitters up here that could actually take people down to teach them how to fly fish or something. So just some things like that.
Were you aware of where our greenway is gonna possibly intersect with the lower area?
Yeah, I was told it was kind of going through the gas easement. Is that what the greenway's going to?
We haven't planned the final location yet, but I think it needs to enter the property somewhere in that gas easement area.
Yeah, and this neighborhood that's right here at Twin Creek, we thought that this gas easement that would be a good location if they wanted to bring the trail in, to that, so that we connect into the neighborhoods. So.
Joel, on the north side, with the acreage that we have there,
This acreage?
on the north side, yeah. Do
Yeah.
you have any idea what the mileage would be on a mountain bike trail in that space?
I don't. But I would say, there's a couple REI courses that are built around the mountain biking experience, and there's one in Boulder that's 50 acres. And we're also we've been talking with them for a couple of reasons. But they're looking at one in Atlanta that's gonna be on 40 acres. So I would say, if we're at 85 acres, we're probably, and it depends if we can use there's probably another 85 to 100 acres of national park here. But this line right here would probably cut 45, 50 acres. So, it's to them, it's more of a course stuff, right? So it would be like the going ups and downs and
Yeah, we were trying to figure out mileage, like, I don't know what.
Mark,
what is the
3
acreage
miles-ish,
of
you
all three?
thinking?
Well, when we did a proposal on the south side, maybe 4 years ago, it was gonna be about a 2-mile trail, but it was only using about between 30 and 40, 40 acres, because the 30 was for the house.
Yeah.
And they were gonna do an advanced trail and then a beginner trail, and that was about all they could fit in there.
yeah.
And that was through SORBA, was gonna be doing the design work.
I mean, I would think 1.5 miles to 2 miles would probably be my idea, and then maybe you do it twice or something, you could get 4 miles out of it or something like that. But the project we worked with them, again, REI was offering classes and for free, and they would come up and have people here, and they would work with the local clubs, and they would get the club sponsor them to come out and talk about REI bikes and then teach people how to mountain bike. So it was pretty cool. It was down in Atlanta that they were doing it, so it was a kind of a neat experience. But
One nice thing about, there's a lot of nice things, but one of the things about SORBA is, depending on which chapter, and I would suggest that we work with the Atlanta chapter, they actually end up sending people to do the maintenance.
yeah,
So it takes a lot of the burden off the city trying to keep up with such a thing.
yeah.
And they have gotten really good at it. Learned a lot of lessons the hard way, especially at Soap Creek, because the usage is off the charts down there. Yeah.
It's right near the house.
Thank you.
So I've walked that gas line, and a lot of times it's really close to the river, and it seems like it's a long way off the river up here, so it must be starting to head northeast or something, because I know down toward Settles Bridge, and it's super close to the water.
The sewer easement or the gas easement?
Yeah, it's
Maybe it's,
sewer.
I'm sorry, the gas
I think it's
easement.
Or sewer easement.
Yeah.
I think it's a sewer easement, yeah.
Is it the sewer?
Yeah, sewer's
Okay.
along the river.
Yeah. So obviously that was a good place to do anything. You know, it's a
Yeah.
lot easier to do it there, but it just seemed like it was a lot closer. Um,
Yeah, it runs pretty much like down through there.
yeah. Okay.
I also think when we were looking at this plan, we still, I think, were wondering about the success of the golf course. I think whatever has changed with the pandemic has sustained itself.
Yeah.
I think we would
Good.
wanna preserve, I think, one of those golf holes where the parking is and reconfigure some of that, but
Yeah.
we have some flexibility on, some of those other areas to shift some of the parking.
Okay.
COVID has definitely saved golf, that's for sure.
Hmm. So those are holes up, those two or three spots up there in the,
I think we're right here is the closest.
Yeah, that bigger parking area
Right there.
on the right,
Mhm.
eats into a couple of holes.
Okay.
So this goes shooting up the hill. There actually is a hole right there, but I mean, we could wedding cake some really cool experiences all the way up. It's kind of an interesting project. I mean, this goes up and this goes up, right? So, and this right here is really steep.
Is what?
Very
It's
steep.
it's steep, yeah, it's a pretty hard walk if you.
Yeah.
walk up there.
It's a workout.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It's a steep walk.
But it's worth it, that's for sure.
We'll make a mini gondola.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Golf carts are
Little
forward.
ski lift. A J bar.
But that would be interesting if we had a loop. You know, one idea we had is we had some kind of loop in here, so if there was a parking lot there, maybe they could shuttle people up, you know, and different ways to do it. And it would be something that would be a little bit, and then you could control this a lot more, you know, not all the traffic, so.
You could decorate the drive a lot easier, make it feel more
Yeah,
round top.
yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions for Joel?
No, that's great.
Great ideas, great ideas.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for presenting today, Joel.
Yeah.
I think, it's really kind of put some vision into all the space that we've been looking at, you know, and gives us some ideas and.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is doable, right? I mean, that's the thing, is it's got some topography and it's got some woods, but I think there's creative ways to really create this image and to figure it out, so. But, lots of great opportunity, so. And this is just, you know, when you really look at that, that's almost double the land, right? So the project itself is gonna feel twice as big, right? So, which will be pretty cool. We've worked with them down on the Chattahoochee River, Cobb County down